Hey everybody, Icy Cat here. Today we're the Pro League Finals for Year 2 Season 1, and they did the reveal for the Operation Health discussion panel. They gave a little bit more insight into the reasons why they did the things they did for Operation Health, as well as a few extra pieces of information that we hadn't yet known about. If you didn't get a chance to see this during the live stream event, then this is your chance to get caught up on what was talked about today. So let's start with the basics. Operation Health is going to be slated to begin May 24th on PC. They specified PC without really mentioning console. However, they do mention that their release platform going forward will be PC first and then console. One question I've been receiving a lot has been with the Operation Health reveal not being the actual Season 2 Hong Kong operators in the standard DLC map that we're used to seeing, is whether or not the ranks will actually be reset. The answer to that is yes. Ranks are going to be reset just like any other normal season would be. This is an actual season of play. We're just not getting the two operators in map like we traditionally would. Rather, we still are getting the operators in map. They're just being pushed back until August. Now, while those new operators are not coming on the 24th because of the delay for the next season, they did give us a little bit of a tease as to what those operator icons look like. Here you can see in this screenshot, it's really blurry, and you can see the attacker more clearly than the defender. But down here on the bottom of the screen, we can see each of the new operator icons. Let's take a look at the first one under the attacker slot. So we have here what appears to be like 3 bursts of something, and we know that Dazzler has some kind of a special Dazzler grenade, and I mean, just given by his name, it sounds like it might be something that stuns or disorients. Some people think it even may be something similar to like a fuse cluster charge, but instead of explosives, maybe it's just kind of like flashbangs or something like that. On the other side, it's even more blurred due to the fall off of the depth of field, but you can see the icon for what we know as the defensive operator Caltrip. And while some people have said that this icon looks like it might be some kind of a UAV, no, I think that that's reaching. This is actually what looks to be a proper outline for what a Caltrip would be. You have that shape where the spikes are sticking out. Again, a Caltrip is something that you're meant to step on and will cause pain and will slow you down. While those operators are not coming out until August, we did get a first early peek at what those icons will look like. And after that, they proceeded to talk about the 3 pillars that are making up Operation Health. Really, they spent the bulk of the time going over these in detail, but we didn't learn any really new information. However, they did give us more context for that. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of a big picture overhaul of this. This isn't just from this discussion panel. This is also kind of putting together pieces that have been talked about by the developers on social media, whether that's Facebook or Twitter, the subreddit, forums, what have you, and the things that they've talked about it, as well as combining it with what they talked about here. Basically, the way it breaks down is this. When the game was first released, they had the servers up, and what they experienced was that the game began growing more than anticipated. It wound up reaching a player base that's way bigger today than it was when the game first came out. And they have since revealed that they want to do a minimum 5-year, possibly 10-year development plan for Rainbow Six Siege. So they're going to be releasing new content constantly throughout that 5 to 10 year development cycle. If the game continues to grow in the way that it has, the server structure that they had started with would be insufficient to keep up with that. In fact, we saw back in the beginning of Operation Velvet Shell that we had a lot of disconnects and crashes the first few days because the player base had grown yet again. Every time they release a new season of content, more players come on board, the game gets bigger, the following gets larger, the population just increases, and the servers can't handle the stress. Now, we can all agree that the Ubisoft servers for the Rainbow Six game was not necessarily the best, most stable environment to begin with. When you begin introducing increased traffic on those servers and just really bringing the load that they carry even more and more and more, you're just increasing the stability problems even further. So, if they're going to keep growing at the rate that they are, and if they're going to continue to do this 5 to 10 year development cycle of supporting the game and just making it bigger all the time, it needs to have a more stable foundation than it had, and that is the reason why this is happening when it is. They also talked about increasing the server tick rate to 60, and they had gotten some flack for that because they said, well, wait a minute, you guys said you were increasing the tick rate to 60 last year sometime, and so what are you saying now? It wasn't already where it was? And actually what was behind that was that it would go up to 60 on occasion, but it was variable. It would pop between 50 and 60 as needed, and they want to have something that is now always at 60 all the time consistently so that the hit registration and the disconnection issues and all of those things that were happening as a result of some of these mismatched informations when they would try to communicate with each other are no longer going to be occurring. They also talked about some other things, like, for instance, how they were going to do things server-side instead of client-side using the peer-to-peer. They're going to try to get away from peer-to-peer as much as possible. They're going to be moving things like the PvE or the chat system or the voice system over into the server-sided issue of things. They didn't really mention how I had talked about in the previous video that it might be nice to have, like, the smoke grenades take place server-side instead of client-side, or the debris scatter take place on the server-side instead of client-side, so everybody was kind of seeing the same thing. They didn't touch on that aspect of it. That doesn't mean it's not happening. It just means they didn't really address that facet of it, so I don't know if that includes that or not. They also talked about the on-off switch, being able to roll back things smoothly and effortlessly. And really, one of the bigger changes that we're going to be seeing is that, this is actually kind of going back to what it used to be too. For the first part of the game's life cycle, we were seeing releases come out on PC first, then a week or so later, they would come to console. Then they wound up doing it so that everything was sort of happening at the same time over the last couple of seasons, where they would try to keep parity between console and the PC release cycles. And really what they're talking about is just going back to the way it used to be in the beginning, so they're going to be having the changes occur on PC first, and then the console users will get it later. And even before PC users get it, there's also going to be a preliminary phase even before that that's occurring on the technical test server. They cannot do those kinds of fixes on console because Sony and Microsoft certification processes require that they go through them first before they can roll out the changes. So the console users will kind of get the benefit of having the PC people kind of, work through those bugs first, so that the time that they get theirs rolled out a week later, everything should be more or less stable. Now, there's two major features coming to Operation Health, and one of them is one-step matchmaking, and the other one is alpha packs. I talked about one-step matchmaking in my previous video. It's just a faster matchmaking system that'll be going on more or less behind the scenes. While matchmaking is occurring, you'll be able to go into menus and navigate the structure of those. You can go into the shop and buy things, change out your weapon attachments. This is all while matchmaking is still occurring. Instead of building one team of 5 and then building a second team of 5, it builds a team of all 10 and launches it pretty much right away so you can get straight into the game. The speed of the matchmaking itself should be faster, and they'll also have a feature when you are done with a match where you can back out to the menu as a party, or you can continue and go back into the queue for finding another game. And then the next part is the alpha packs. The way these work is that you will get a chance to win an alpha pack. This is essentially like a loot crate or a loot pack. And the more you play, the higher your chances of getting one of these will be. So if you play around and then at the end of that you didn't get one, it will stack. It will be cumulative so that the next time you end a round, your chance to get an alpha pack will then be higher, and so on and so forth until you eventually get one. The concept here being the more you play, the more of these you'll get. And what you can get in these are skins for your weapons, charms, headgears, uniforms, any of that stuff. This isn't going to include some of the things that you can get under the digital content tab, where you have to actually pay like actual cash to get those items. So things like the elite uniform skins, where you get like the old vintage elite uniform with the matching headgear and the reskinned weapon texture, and like there's like 7 things that come in one of those. Like that would not be something you would get in one of these alpha packs. But otherwise, most of the other content you can find in there, again, as long as it's not in the digital content tab. And it does have its own rarity structure, so you'll have items that are more common or less common or legendary or epic, and they're even color coded. So when you see like the light flash and then the text come up, it'll be a yellow or a purple or a white or whatever the thing might be. That's all based on the rarity structure. And they even have an interesting way to handle if you get duplicate items. If you get an item that you already have, it will instantly turn into renown, so it's not like it's just a throwaway waste. This stuff is not coming out all at once. They show us the roadmap of what this looks like for Operation Health. And you can see this is kind of everything that we've been talking about. And on the one side here, we have one-step matchmaking at update 2.1 and alpha packs at update 2.2. When an update comes out for a new season, that's the 0.0 update. So technically the update that we'll be getting on May 24th will be update 2.2.0. That stands for year 2, season 2, update 0, because it's a new season, so like the 0 iteration. The following month, when we would typically have previously seen a mid-season reinforcement update, would be the 0.1 update. It's the next iteration. And then the following season before the next one starts would be a 0.2. That would be the 3rd month in the season, and then it would go to the next one, which would be a 0.0, starting the new season over again. So what does that really mean for what we're looking at here? What it means is we might not be getting one-step matchmaking on the 24th. That might actually come the next month, because the way this works is that the 0.0 update is the new season. So what will we be getting aside from the rank reset? It's a little uncertain. We'll definitely be seeing some of the server improvements and the tick rate improvements and things like that, but I don't know if it'll all be rolled out at once or if it'll come out over the course of these 3 months. But it looks like the one-step matchmaking is not going to be starting right away on the 24th. That will be the following month. And then Alpha Packs looks like it's in the final month of Operation Health if this is being read correctly. So that would put Alpha Packs beginning in July. Now, there is one other possibility. Maybe they're changing their numbering structure. That's entirely possible. So maybe the 0.1 update will really be the first one. But if that is the case, then they're changing the structure of the way they've numbered these from previous seasons. But just looking at this on the surface, it looks like we're not getting one-step matchmaking until June and Alpha Packs until July. So are we seeing anything else that's going to be changing right away? Well, maybe. One thing they talked about was buffs and nerfs. Now, they said that the whole team was really working hard on Operation Health, and so they weren't going to be investing in recreating new operator nerfs and buffs from the ground up. An example of this would be what we saw with Glaz, where all of a sudden he had a thermal scope. The gadget functioned completely differently. It had new visual effects associated with the way it worked. That kind of thing we're not going to be seeing. But what they did say was that they can do tweaks, adjustments. So if they're messing around with the numerical values behind the way a gadget works, that's something they can definitely easily do. And here's what they said that they'll be doing. There's been so much controversy around the way that Glaz has been working that they've been doing some thinking about that, and they're going to institute the following changes. So previously they said his weapon was a 1-shot to 2-shot kill. It is now going to become a 2-shot to 3-shot kill. They're also giving him much more recoil that will make it harder to chain multiple shots together quickly. So now he's going to take just as many shots to drop a target as Blackbeard will with his SR-25, or Buck with his Kamers. Another thing they talked about was adjusting the smoke grenade distribution, so Ash and Thermite will be losing smoke grenades, and Jackal and Fuse will instead get smoke grenades. So that's all the information that came out today during the Operation Health live stream during the Rainbow Six Pro League Finals. If and when new information becomes available, I will of course be covering it here, so please make sure that you like and subscribe. And if you really want to stay up to date on the latest information as far as to what's going on with the game, any changes and new info, then please do click the notification icon so that it is enabled, that when I put in a new video, you are aware of it right away and you can find out exactly what's going on as soon as possible. Additionally, you can also follow me over at IcyCat25 on either Facebook or Twitter. Thanks a lot for watching, everybody. We'll talk to you guys next time.